Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I wanted to give you a quick update on Hamshack 2.0 and where we're at. As you can probably tell from the looks and the acoustics in here, all the drywall's up. I wound up using 12-foot sheets because I didn't want a lot of vertical seams in here. And I was really worried about putting 12-foot sheets on the ceiling, how that was going to work. Well, we rented a drywall jack and my oldest daughter come over and helped me, and we had the whole ceiling done in maybe 6-7 hours. So that went pretty smooth. The rest of it, even while I've been doing it most of it by myself, my wife did come out and help me get those top, there's 2-foot sheets up on the top. These are 10-foot walls. So there's a 2-foot sheet up on top. She come out and held those in place while I put the screws in. But the rest of it I did myself, and I would not change it a bit. These 12-foot sheets worked out really good. Now, as you could see from the start of the video, I've been mudding and taping. And there's an old saying that applies perfectly to me when it comes to mudding and taping. I may not be good, but I'm slow. And that fits. You know, professional drywallers, I admire those guys. They can just put the perfect amount of mud on the wall and put the tape up and be done. I'm not that guy. And I know there's guys out there that like that fiberglass stuff. I'll get into that in just a minute. I prefer the tape. And so one thing, I found this product about 8 years ago, and I wanted to mention it because, what's this thing called? A tape buddy. This thing, I really enjoy it. I bought it when I was doing a remodel project, I think it was 8 years ago. Put the tape in one side, mud on the other side, and you pull it out, and it comes out with the perfect amount of mud every time. And you can set it for either a little bit of mud or a lot or more mud. And the thing just really works well. The only downside is I can only do about 6-7 foot stretch at a time. I have seen a video of a guy using one of these. He had somebody walking in front of him, feeding the tape out. And they just went and taped a whole wall in one whack without ever cutting the tape. But doing it myself, you know, it works fine. I just overlap the tape a little bit. The other thing about drywall tape is it seems to help if it's a little bit moist when you put it up. So, you know, the guys that can put the perfect amount of tape or mud on the wall and then tape it, I admire those guys. But I've never had very good luck with the tape sticking because it's completely dry. Well, because this thing, when you feed it through, it gets a little bit of moisture on it from the mud. It seems to stick perfect every time. So I'm a pretty big fan of that thing. Like I said, I found it about 8 years ago and have been using it ever since. Now the fiberglass stuff, I've used a lot of it in the past. Not a fan of it. If I've ever had joints that crack, it's always those ones where I've used the fiberglass stuff. The tape, after I started using this thing and I've got the right amount of mud on, I've never had a joint crack yet while I've been using this thing. So to each his own, but I'm just not a big fan of the fiberglass stuff. So all the drywalling's done. I've got a little bit of taping left to do in the other room there. I think maybe 30 feet. I think I've used about 600 feet of tape total so far. And that's the slowest part to me, is getting the taping done. After that, it seems to go a little quicker. I'm not a big fan of the sanding part of this process, but it is what it is. On a previous video, I mentioned I really despise drywalling. Well, this project actually went really smooth. It's been semi-enjoyable to do. There is part of this before the drywalling I'm going to mention that I really disliked, but the only part of the drywalling that gave me a fit was the last 4 pieces in this other room, the storage room. I'd already been doing a lot of hanging drywall earlier that day, and there's just 4 of these half sheets, 10-foot tall ceilings, so up on top there's a 2-foot sheet up there. There was like 4 pieces left to do in there, and I thought, I'm just going to knock this out. Big mistake. I was already tired and hungry and tried to knock that out real quick, and it just became super frustrating. I got really frustrated at that last little bit. The rest of it went pretty smooth. Really no complaints at all. I take back what I said. So far, it's really not been that bad. Now, the thing I had forgotten or blocked, I'm not sure what I did, was insulating with fiberglass insulation. Man, I hate fiberglass insulation. That stuff makes, I don't know if I've just got the perfect skin that it just drives me nuts or what, but that stuff, I just hate it. So one thing, I don't remember why I found this on the internet, but if you take talcum powder or baby powder and put it over any exposed skin, it seems to help. What I found that helps even more was a product called anti-monkey butt. It sticks a little better. It's still kind of a talcum powder based stuff, but it really cut down on the amount of itching from that stupid fiberglass insulation. So that's all wrapped. The insulating, it took me about a day and a half to get it done. It was super hot when I was doing it, so I'd only work about 3-4 hours at it and quit. It took me a couple days to get it done, but got all that done. The one thing I did different in here than I had originally planned was the Cat 6 wiring. Originally, I just planned on a couple drops. Well, I just went about a 1,000-foot roll of it and put 3 drops over here, 3 drops on this wall, 2 drops in that room back there, and 2 drops in the old tack room, and brought it all behind where my desk is going to be tied into a switch there. I figure it's a lot easier to do it while all the sheetrock and drywall's off the wall and just be done with it. The outside's completely done, besides a couple pieces of trim around a window and the entry point for the coax. That hasn't been done yet. I'm going to kind of save that for the last and do a pretty good video series about grounding and all that stuff. The one thing I will say I've done different, the last 2 Hamshacks, I put the entry through the wall down fairly low. It's a 3-inch entry point. I put it down low next to the floor. And what I found is, even though my desk has the open, the bottom that you can open up and crawl back in there, there's power supplies and wires and all kinds of stuff in the way. This one, I put it up about 30 inches off the floor, just so it's easier to access. The other reason is I'm worried about snow building up against the building in the winter. We can get some pretty good drifting out here. And I didn't want to, if I needed to get into that box, I didn't want to spend an hour trying to dig it out. So that's one thing I did do different this time. Now, the power coming out here, I think somebody mentioned from the previous video, I mentioned I brought triplex cable out here. Somebody mentioned, oh, you should have brought a quad cable out because now you don't have a ground. Well, the reason I didn't use a quad cable was I already had a number 2 copper wire going from the tower that's right outside this wall over to the power point for the house to make sure all the grounding was tied together. So I just tied into that same ground. So that's the reason I went ahead and just used a triplex cable. Now, pulling that cable through that conduit wound up being a huge pain. It's just a little over, just right at an inch diameter. Through an 1.5 inch conduit. I thought I would have enough room. I knew it was going to be a little snug, but man, that aluminum cable, that 2-aught cable, hard to pull through there. And wound up, my oldest son came out and helped, and with the 2 of us, there's no way I could have done it by myself, but with 2 of us and using the 4-wheeler winch, we finally got it pulled through there, and it worked out fairly well. It took a lot longer than I was expecting. In my mind, this was a 2-hour project. Wound up taking pretty much a whole day trying to dink around and get that thing through there, but we got it done. So this building's pretty well set to go. We're to the point that, you know, I'm hoping after this weekend that I can drywall. I can texture this and get it ready for paint. Now, it seems like when you get to the point of the drywall, the rest of it seems to go fairly fast, at least to me. So we're to that point and things are starting to pick up fairly quickly here. I can see the end in sight, which I'm really thankful for. This thing has ate up a lot of my summer. And I mentioned on the other video that I kind of liked working in spurts at it and not overwhelming myself. The only problem with doing that is you wind up eating a lot of your weekends. Instead of just putting your nose to the grindstone and getting it done, you wind up eating a lot of weekends. But this summer it's actually worked out. With the COVID thing, we haven't been wanting to travel a whole lot. And so this has been kind of my getaway, and the fun part of the summer is working on this. Even though it's manual labor and you know all that, it's still been a fun project to work on. But we're to the point now I can see the end in sight, so I'm really wanting to get it done. So hopefully here before long we can show you a finished product and bring you into the grounding and how I'm going to set this ham shack up and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's been a fun project, but it's funny, we're to that point where it seems like it's going fast, but at the same time, all of our apples are ripe, our peaches are ripe, our garden's ready to be harvested. So all the stuff's hitting at the same time. We're ready to press cider. And so it just seems like our summer just escaped from us. It just seems like what happened to summer. I can't believe we're out picking our peaches and apples right now. It just blows my mind. It seems like just yesterday it was the start of June. So anyway, that's about wrapping it up for the ham shack. I just wanted to give you a quick update. I did go out, I think it was last week, with the dirt bike, and I wound up going to 4 different mines that day. And I'm trying to get time to edit that video and get it put out. I'm not sure how well that's going to turn out. It was a challenge filming off of a bike like that. I had not really thought that process through, but it was quite a bit of a challenge. And I wound up missing parts of the mine that I really wanted to see. So we may have to make a trip back there. Anyway, that'll be in an upcoming video. Thanks for watching, subscribing. If you like the video, hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. One thing I forgot to mention in the video was a few days ago, we had one heck of a wild windstorm out here. I think probably sustained 40-mile-an-hour winds all day long. If you haven't seen in the news, it really affected fires throughout Oregon and Washington. Here locally, we didn't have too much in the fire area. We did have a few fires that caused a little bit of problem with, but nothing like the west side of Oregon and central Washington. Boy, it really affected those guys, especially up in Washington. They had hurricane force winds and it just pushed fire out. That one fire went from pretty much no fire to, I want to say 30,000 acres in a day. It just blew up. And so our thoughts and prayers go out to all those people affected on the other side of the state. Right now, today, it's super smoky around our place. The wind shifted, and now we're getting smoke from those fires, and you can smell the smoke or the forest fire in the air. Some towns have been totally obliterated by those fires. Little towns have just been decimated by those fires. So, and there's been life lost now. My work, we've actually lost some of our comm shelters, our communication shelters as well. So it's pretty wild right now. Hopefully, I didn't see anything in the long-range forecast to indicate any wet weather coming, but fingers crossed, humidities will come up some and temperatures will come down some in the next few days. But yeah, it's been really wild around here for fires. Okay, have a good day.